All right, God, life is so funny, and I wanted to tell you a quick story right now. So I'm in San Diego. I'm at Wells Fargo. Okay, I've been banking at Wells Fargo for a very, very, very long time. Now, I started my land business about 5 years ago in 2019, and it's funny. I just was in here sending out wires for a deal that we're partnering on today for multiple six figures. Received a wire this morning for a deal that we closed today for 77 grand in profit, and had another one earlier this week for 40 grand. I say none of this to boast. I honestly, I am such a small fish in such a small pond, and the dollars don't mean diddly squat. But I say this to tell a story, because it was literally not that long ago, a few short years ago, that I was showing up to Wells Fargo every freaking day to pull out cashier's checks for $500, for $300, for $1,000. And I was mailing those cashier checks to owners, to these tiny, rinky-dink, small piece of crap pieces of land. I was closing the deals myself. I wasn't even using a title company. Right, we were just figuring out, doing our own title searches, drafting our own deeds, sending it out on the honorary system, on the trust system to these sellers, having so much faith or maybe so much ignorance that I didn't even have escrow services. I would just send out the money with a deed, say, here's your cashier's check, sign the deed, mail it back to me, and fingers crossed you don't screw me over. And all that time I actually only had one person who ever screwed me over, which is pretty funny. But long story short, dude, that was not that long ago. I remember walking into Wells Fargo in 2020. Okay, I'd been growing my business. I've been doing it for about a year. I started with like $7,000, somewhere in that territory. And I'm like, okay, cool. This system is working. The model is working. I'm buying these small properties for $1,000, selling them for $2,000 or $3,000. But I'm like, this is gonna take me forever to get to where I want to go. I could tell that like system works, but this is gonna be slow progress. So I go in there and I'm like, hey, I got this business. I kind of like showed them the business plan. It's working. My accounts are growing. You can see this. Can I get a loan? And I asked for a $10,000 loan, and I got rejected so hard. Just shot the F down. Fast forward to now, every time I go in there, they're vying for your business. Please get this account. Do this. Here's your premier banker. Da 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 da. Again, none of that. I say none of that to boast. But oh, how the tables have freaking turned, man. And this is not a story about making money. It really isn't. This is a story about sticking with shit, when times get tough. There were so many moments in this journey that looked like the end. There were so many dead ends where I think, frankly, the vast majority of people would have thrown in the towel. And if you can just inch past that, if you can just stick around, fuck, you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the way life starts to take shape for you when you just persevere is amazing. And that's why I forget that I have this. I quite literally got that tattooed on my neck, because it's almost like the secret to the world, like to the material world. Now, again, perseverance, I think it applies to stuff that maybe is insignificant, like making money or, developing yourself. I mean, these are small things in the grand scheme of what is very much a spiritual world that we live in, and I never want to get lost in the sauce. But there is something to be said about trying to become the best version of yourself in this physical realm, trying to see what's possible in this little experience that we call life. And maybe it's just a game to distract ourselves, I don't know. But what I do know is that's the fucking cheat code, right? And so many of you guys lack the internal fortitude, the guts or the nuts to stick around. And if you can, goddamn, life really shapes up for you. It's so interesting. And so I don't know where you're at in your own personal journey, but I hope that if you're going through hard times, that you understand that sticking around is a price of admission. Like, you've got to be so convicted in making whatever it is that you're trying to make work, that whatever gets thrown your way just doesn't matter that much. And you've got to have a level of faith even beyond yourself, that someone outside of you or something is looking out for you. Because I swear that's how it feels sometimes. And again, if you've done something interesting in your life, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's like there's like this barrier that you crossed where all of a sudden the world starts transpiring for you. And maybe perseverance is the secret to that. I don't know. But if you can just stick around long enough, all the puzzle pieces start falling in the right place. All the people that you need to like come into your life, I don't know, everything just works out. I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like your life is like silently guided by this hand that's kind of pushing you into the right places, moving you out of the way from extreme danger. Doesn't mean that you're not going to be tested, because you will be tested. But the extreme stuff, the stuff that you can't handle, we're going to pull you aside to that. Now, you might think that you can't handle it, but I promise you, you can. I don't know, there's just some beauty that happens. And, I see it inside of Leah, right? We just had a guy, Preston, okay, really cool story. So Preston just shared, I think it was 2 days ago, that he had his biggest month ever in land and in Leah. He joined Leah and started his land business 7 months ago. He just had a $55,000 profit month for the month of, September, okay? And that's a cool win no matter who you are. But that's a really fucking cool win, because Preston, his situation was a situation that I think a lot of people, they might have given up on, right? He had previous success. He joined Leah with a lot of vigor. Sometimes vigor is dangerous inside of Leah. Sometimes vigor puts you into vulnerable situations because you've got this kind of pseudo confidence or this hubris where you push aside the education and you go full bore on action. And that's kind of what happened, right? Started aggressively picking markets, aggressively mailing, didn't really have the backbone of market selection, didn't really have the backbone in particular on how to talk to sellers. And so was looking for leads to get served up to him on a silver platter, and they don't, and they weren't. And so it's like this kind of doomsday of like, whoa, I just invested money into education. I just invested money into marketing, and none of it's tracking. Like the markets are mid, the pricing's mid. I get these sellers, I don't know how to talk to them. If the conversations lead to a dead end, they tell me no. And I remember getting on a coaching call with him live, and I'm like, dude, you need to go back to the drawing board. I need you to start over, because we've skipped a lot of the fundamentals and replaced that with aggressive action, and it's put us into a vulnerable position. Now, a lot of people would be like, well, I don't want to, or like, this doesn't work, or blah, 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 blah. No, not Preston. Preston, you know what? I'm going to bow down. I'm going to understand that I am a novice when it comes to this stuff. I am going to go and treat this like with the mindset of being a beginner and go back to ground zero. There's such a beauty of like relinquishing any ego when you come into something like land or any new venture where you're just like, I'm a fucking beginner. Like, I don't know shit. I'm a risk to myself. And so let me go and get educated. And when I do get educated, let me listen and let me actually put into place what's being told. Not everyone does that. And so fast forward, it's probably about 4 months since we had that come to Jesus moment together. And the dude's killing it. And a lot of his issues stem from two things. For those that are curious, for those that are in land that want to know, his issues stem typically from not picking the best markets. And I would say probably about 70% of the issues stem from not knowing how to talk to sellers, not knowing how to negotiate, how to create offers that make sense, getting yourselves into these situations where you're pandering to sellers and they drag you through the mud for weeks or for months just to find out that they don't actually want to sell at your price. You've got no shot there. You've wasted all your time with them. And the one good lead in your CRM, well, you missed them because you're over here pandering to the schmuck who dragged you through the mud. So those were kind of what it was comprised of. And Preston's one of those guys where I've seen this transformation and I'm like, that guy's got the dog in him. And not everyone has that dog in them develop, but I think everyone has the potential to have it. And that dog in them is that pit bull energy. It's that fighter energy. It's that when times get tough, you clamp down, you get lockjaw, and you don't let go on your goals, all right? It's a weird fucking video. I don't know who this resonates with, but I don't know, I just had a weird download, a weird epiphany while I was in there. And I was reminiscing. It's partially because I'm back in San Diego. This was the city that made me, the city that started my adult life, honestly. I moved here in 2017 as a freaking child. I really did. Now, I wasn't legally a child. I think I was 20 something, 22 maybe. But boy, was I a child. And I remember moving down here in my purple Saturn sedan. I think it was from like 1994 or something like that. Literally like a Barney purple Saturn sedan. And I remember driving down here. I had all my stuff packed in the sedan. I had my German Shepherd right here. Sweet dog named Kona. And I drove down there, and I remember sitting in LA traffic for the first time, my first time ever driving through LA traffic. I got no AC in this car. All the windows are rolled down. It's the middle of the summer. I'm like, this is insane. My dog's panting over here. And I remember pulling into this city and just being so dumbfounded at the magnitude of it. I remember driving on the Highway 8. If you know the 8, you gotta know San Diego to know the 8, but it's a highway that runs east to west. I remember just driving on it and just the number of cars and the people and the energy. I'm a small town dude. I grew up in Big Sur, and my jaw was on the floor. I just couldn't believe it. And yeah, I struggled. When I moved here, I really struggled. I struggled for a year. And I struggled because I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I dropped out of college. I had a business that I wasn't in love with. I had no friends down here. I had social anxiety. I had a hard time meeting new people. And I struggled for a year, for like hard. Like I really, really was constantly on this pendulum of debating, do I leave? Do I come back? Do I leave or do I stay? And thank God I ended up staying. And just like everything in life, it got better the longer I stuck around. And so part of that nostalgia, part of this story is because I'm back in my stomping grounds and all these memories just come flooding back to me. And again, I can't stress enough, I'm not trying to brag. And honestly, the numbers don't fucking matter. It's a score on a scoreboard. It's a fucking game. Past a certain point, it's absolutely meaningless. And it's trite and it's cliche, but it's so much is about who you become in that process. I mean, to attain anything that's coveted, that's hard to come by, requires you to become a certain kind of person. And that's the moral of the story. And that's the beauty, man. It's worth the journey. The journey is the prize. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Subscribe, give it a thumbs up if you resonated with this. Hopefully it serves you. If you're going through hard times, stick with it. I promise good things will happen. Persevere.